image of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale, white-skinned Jesus, which is one of the biggest lies ever told after Columbus discovered our nation. If that's what they're teaching us in our education, then they don't even have to worry about whether our freedom. All they have to do is continue teaching you that same education that they gave us when we were slaves, so that we would not rebel. But there's another realization that we have to come to at this point, and that is we have been people to divide, rule, conquer, and destroy us, but the destruction of us takes place at each other's hands. And I want to give you very quickly 3 examples of this. The first one is apartheid South Africa. Now, beloved, please think for a moment on this. Think. We all would have heard about South Africa and apartheid, and that a tiny minority of white people were able to control a mass majority of African people. And for many years we would have asked, how is this possible? How could it have been done that just a few hundreds, literally, of whites were able to control the government, control the economy, control the parliament, control the Congress, control all of the businesses, and to pass a law as far back as 1912, more than 100 years ago in South Africa, that all the millions of black people must be restricted to ownership of only 13% of the land, and that the majority of us remain poor, landless, propertyless, and the handful few whites, by law, through the parliament, established in their constitution, were to control 87% of the land. Now, you had all of these steps and stages in apartheid South Africa, where black people were beaten, were robbed, were killed, were shot down like dogs in the street. There was the Sharpeville massacre on March 21st, 1960, where students went out and protested against miseducation, and they murdered them. And us African people all over the world have asked the question, but how could they just sit back and let that happen? How did all of those millions of African people just not stand up and take the justice for themselves? I'm going to answer that question for you before I go. And it's a sad answer, and I don't want to forget that. The second case is Rwanda, where the genocide took place between the Tutsis and the Hutus, and hundreds of thousands of African people slaughtered. The enemy, through his science, embellished our differences, made us think that our differences are bigger than they really were. Then he made our differences a major issue of contention between us. And then he steps in as a problem solver, peacemaker, a conflict resolver, pretending to be the one who is bringing about stability and order. And the same thing happened in the Angolan Civil War between 1975 and 2002, right after Angola got independence from Portugal. They used a science of putting African people against African people, getting them to murder and kill each other while they sit back and look. So you had one side that was being supported by the communists, another side that was being supported by the Americans, and the next thing you know, whether it's apartheid South Africa, where they embellished the conflict between Nelson Mandela and Chief Buthelezi, or in Rwanda between the Tutsis and the Hutus, or in Angola between UNITA and the MPLA, even in Nigeria with Biafra. Think, beloved. Listen. Everywhere where African people are, everywhere where we have set up societies, communities, or civilizations, an enemy has stepped in and found out what our differences are and used those differences against us for us to use them against each other, and they were successful every single time. It's time to wake up out of that trick. And beloved, we still have in Jamaica as the head of state, the queen of those tricks and deceit and mass murder and those stealing of the wealth of African nations. We are volunteering to remain under a version of mental slavery. And I'm hearing about a referendum. Let's put it to a vote to decide if we should have a republic or not. Bad idea. Terrible idea. That is one of the worst things that we can do. Because if we're going to have a vote to decide on whether or not we want to be free from our colonial masters as a republic, if you have to vote for that, then you're under an illusion of what freedom really is. Because that is like babies in a hospital having a vote to decide on whether or not they're going to cut their umbilical cord from their mothers. That is like 18-year-olds coming together to have a vote to decide on whether or not they should ever leave the home of their parents. And most of all, having a referendum in Jamaica to decide on whether or not we want to cut ties with the Queen of England is like slaves on a plantation voting to decide if they want their freedom. And if you have to vote on whether you want your freedom, that is evidence of the damage that was done to us psychologically. Because if you have to think now, well, I'm thinking about infrastructural development, or I'm thinking about the society in general, the public utilities, or how I'm going to eat. You know, if you have to stop for a moment to wonder whether or not you will choose freedom because you might have more food, then you're equating freedom with hunger. And if they can make you hungry and you're willing to capitulate or compromise or sell your soul so that you can get food in your stomach, then they've been fully successful in making us into modern day slaves. And do you think they're not monitoring the conversation by the fact that we're even thinking about whether or not we should? They know that they don't deserve to hold on to all of this wealth. They know that. But we have to know what true black power is. So beloved, as I begin to conclude, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us 8 steps to economic success. And the most important of them was that we must own land and we must grow our own food. Beloved, it is illegal to take money, put it together on a sheet of paper, and print it through a photocopying machine, and then cut up the pieces with the scissors, and then go into the supermarket and try to use it. That's illegal. You cannot print your own money. But growing your own food is like printing your own money and guaranteeing a future for your children. We have to go back to the land. Land is the basis for independence. During all of the slave codes, then the black slave codes, the Spanish slave codes, the French slave codes. A code is like a secret language that can be communicated between two individuals in the presence of other individuals, and those other individuals they had code. The main universal factor, one of those codes, was that black people must not own land. They had to make that we were landless, propertyless, begging, as our brother Khalid Muhammad used to say that as black people they needed to make sure that we own neither a brick, a stick, nor a blade of grass, not a rock, a ray, a spike, a spoke, nor even a puff or puff of a cloud of smoke. African people must have not a cent, but we must be lining up. They know that they have conquered us. So it is time, beloved, to get rid of the Queen of England as the head of state of our society, so that we can demonstrate true black power. And I close with these thoughts. You see that divide and rule trick in apartheid South Africa, in Angola, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Namibia, all over. Do you know that every single country in Africa was colonized? Every single country, with the exception of Liberia on the west and Ethiopia on the east. Everywhere in between up to the colonial days, Europeans took. But they took it through a science. A science means a system of techniques that have been tried and tested to yield consistent results through empirical evidence and experimentation. They look at us and they divide us wherever we are and whatever characteristics or attributes we may display. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, with a $1 Million March on October 16, 1995 in Washington, D.C., revealed to us the Willie Lynch document, where they said that they can control us for 300 years. And in Capitalism and Slavery by Dr. Eric Williams, he wrote that the Royal Slave Trading Company to Africa was incorporated as a business in the year 1663 up to the year 2663, meaning that they had a vision for us to be in slavery for 1,000 years. And guess what? It will work if we don't break those mental chains. It will continue to work against us, not for us, for as long as we accept those differences. The dark-skinned black versus the light-skinned black, the educated African versus the uneducated African, the urban African versus the rural African, the Jamaican African versus the Trinidadian African, or the Barbadian African versus the Guyanese African. They have taken all of our differences and made them bigger issues than they really are. We can pull out and resist from that. The great Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. And this, if not resolved with diplomacy, can only be resolved with blows or violence or some kind of compromise of order and stability and peace, or all of it put together. We are at a crossroads, Jamaica. We are at a time in our existence that we have to make sure that we inject that consciousness in the minds of our children. And I'll leave you with one short story about a war that took place during World War II. Simple war. It happened in Russia. But it's something for us African people to be so mindful of. And I'm talking about an event called the Battle of Leningrad. Now think as I leave you. Leningrad was a city in Russia. Germany under Hitler in World War II had a plan to invade Russia. So Germany is about this big, Russia is about this big, but they realized that through strategy, if they take over the main cities, Moscow, St. Petersburg, Stalingrad, Leningrad, once you take over the main cities, then you can ensure that you topple the country. So everyone else in the in-between areas will just be insurgents or insurrectionists. But they did not drop any bombs on Leningrad. They didn't fire any missiles at Leningrad. They didn't shoot any torpedoes. They didn't throw any hand grenades. No one was shot in a violent way. There was no bloodshed. What they did was, taking over the city of Leningrad, they blocked off all of the access roads so that no food can go in and no people can come out. They studied the population of the city, how productive they were, what food storage they had, and what ability they had to reproduce their own food supply.
Black seed, sunflower seed, mallet seed.
Live, you know? Timing. Oh, that's a greatness going on here.
If it was a dead emperor, a king, an emperor, a king.
Go to the prison. Who is it? All of these countries that boast about that. But when it comes to who owns
the time I spent
spoken down to in a condescending manner by people of other ethnic groups. African people, the number one victims of injustice all across the region. Still, so don't look at the black and say to them, oh, how can you sit back and take all of that injustice? Let's look at ourselves and see how we ourselves are still tolerating that same injustice all over the Caribbean region. So our solution is to unite, pool our resources, open skills, mindsets, think tanks, come together, settle our differences, and become one united African people. And I close with this one short story. Just give me a couple minutes. This story is about a sister in Kenya who but he wanted to see the real face. Jenny said to her assistant, take the tourist upstairs so that he could see the rooms and then he will decide where he wants to stay. The tourist put $1,000 cash down on the desk. And then he went upstairs to see the rooms. Jenny, the owner of the hotel, picked up that $1,000 and took it straight to her mechanic. Because the mechanic fixed the car the week before, but she didn't get to pay him as yet. So she paid him off with that $1,000 from the tourist. The mechanic took the same $1,000 and took it to his electrician. Because the electrician rewired the mechanic's house the week before, and the mechanic did not get to pay the electrician, so he paid him with that same $1,000 that he got from Jenny. The electrician took the same $1,000 and went and gave it to his plumber. Because the pipes in his house burst the week before, and he paid the plumber, but didn't get, the plumber did the job, didn't get to pay him as yet. He owed him $1,000, he paid it off. The plumber took that same $1,000 and took it to a wedding planner, because he got married the week before, and the wedding planner did all of the work. He didn't get to pay her as yet, so he had this $1,000, he gave it to the wedding planner. And then the wedding planner took the same $1,000 and took it right back to Jenny, because the wedding of the plumber took place in Jenny's hotel. So Jenny has back the same $1,000, and Jenny puts the $1,000 right back down on the desk where the tourist left it. Same time, the tourist comes back downstairs. He says to Jenny, I will not be staying in your hotel tonight, but thank you for your time. Takes the $1,000 and leaves. That is the black economy. $5,000 was just spent, but the question is, where's the money? You can't find it. But the real wealth is in our human resource. Those of us who are mechanics, electricians, masons, carpenters, accountants, lawyers, teachers, doctors, and persons of all different walks of life, and all different occupations, and all different professions. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we have to unite in spite of our differences, because it is the lack of love for self that is at the root of us betraying one another, stabbing each other in the back, being like crabs in barrels. We have to break that syndrome, and that is the same syndrome that is making us hold on to colonialism. So my beloved family, all praises due to Allah. All praises due to Allah. All praises due to Allah. Blessings, beloved. I want you to get this book, Black Studies, where we compile all those great ideas from all those great wise leaders, teachers, scholars, and historians. From the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, the Black Panthers, the Imperial Majesty, Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, Henry Sylvester Williams, Sailor James, George Patmore, all those in between who have given any kind of inspiration to our people. We have these books available outside, but once again I want to thank irie FM for the opportunity to share these thoughts with you. I hope to see you again soon, and I say may Almighty God Allah continue to bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.
This brother has some great books. Great books in all different
Hail the man!
levels of life.
Hail the man! What we saying, Black Power? Today we're saying we're removing the queen. And what? All what? Right, students and over this side. All remnants of colonialism. And we're still in that mantra. So after the food for thought and the food before that, and the drumming and the fashion show, and all that we've been up to today, you still have energy? You still want more? And you don't even reach a concert yet. You don't even reach the stage show yet. Because this is the middle stage show. And then we move later on to the big stage show. And we're just saying when you're going home, drive safely. Right? Protect your loved ones. We're happy you're here. It's a blessing to see you. 2018, 2019, we had some celebration, but this is a welcome addition. Please. So we said no flow. We're winding down to wind up, and then to go on the grounds again. And we're gonna have to make some noise right now. Because remember we said we went to Barbados, right? And we went to Trinidad. And all over the world, because Barbados and Trinidad brought the whole circle away with one and here we go. At this time, it's my
We stand outside and promise to be together to
That child can't juice to the ginger.
Rastafari.
And welcome our Pan-African attorney at law, Bert Samuel.
Brothers and sisters, Wednesday was a great day. I discovered that Honorable Marcus I'm 52. Garvey passed when he was a young boy. And look how much work him do. 52 when them done stress him out. Attain 52 years. So we have to know that the great Messiah Marcus Garvey spent half century on the earth plus 2 years. Now I have been asked to come here to deal with the question of time come. Remove the queen and all the remnants of colonialism. I just want to go slowly because I test myself and it's just 18 minutes, right? So let's go. The entire island of Jamaica was during our enslavement one huge penal institution. There was absolutely no freedom of movement. The plantation was a place consisting of enslaved prisoners. Our foreparents were locked down 24 hours a day, and this lasted for the duration of their lives. This is why Jamaica was really for 300 years plus a huge crime scene. We have tried very hard as a people to seek refuge in denial and to hide from this reality. That is, we are in constant denial about the fact that the British governed this penal institution with terror. Tisselwood's diary, a man called Tisselwood, written by a cruel, perverted, low-life slave owner, right here in Jamaica, he had a plantation, detailed for us the freedom with which our enslavers abused us. He tells us of the fact that for the crime of stealing cane, when we grow or when we cut, terrible amount of the nation's mental health. Hickman said 70% of us have mental issues. to their own children so that they can open master your young daughter to his perverted planter friend. Because a slave was
I agree. Where they get now? Sugar cane. David. Red plantain chips, 200.
It was 1 month before his funeral by the Jamaica on the 21st of April 1966. When Sarah Young and Amar, and guess what? OP, the true royalty. So that's the first arrived here, and as Judge would have it, to welcome to this African king by Jamaican has been the most tumultuous welcome ever witnessed to anyone visiting our shores. May the ancestors be pleased. After all, we recognized in 1966 that the forefather of His Majesty King David himself did prophesy at Psalm 68 verse 31 that princes shall come out of Egypt and Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto them. That is Psalm 68 31. You see, deep in our consciousness, not only we have bleach and we have talk about queen, deep down in our consciousness, we know that the British Queen and her predecessors don't like we, and we are seeking to cling to for refuge from her, the Queen abuse, torture and disdain. You know, see how Meghan, with a little touch of African blood, have to run out of the palace, Buckingham Palace, when they run around there. Listen, the same year in October 1865, the month that so we can petition her to take up the weed over the planter. That's part of this indoctrination. So then petition her. 108 people signed the petition. Only 26 could have write them there. Let me repeat it. After 108 people in St. Anne will petition this woman up in England, only 26 could write them there. And the Queen right back with her face to self. Queen Victoria with no Queen Victoria rule the waves. And a rude letter to the people of St. Anne. So they must work harder so that the plantations could become productive. That's what she said. 27 years after slavery when we down here suffer. We don't get no land, we don't get no money.
We don't have no clothes. We don't have no formal education. She said we must work harder. Here is this wicked, insensitive and racist Queen Victoria of England, who compensated her planter owners and her friend for the loss of their horses. Africans like I and I, cows with 20 million pounds, 27 years later, telling we that we must work harder on the plantation. And I, descendant of the insulted people, must today as a lawyer accept this title, what they call